Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I want to talk about news I'm recently hearing that the Boston Celtics are the front runners to land Kemba Walker. I thought, like, as recently as yesterday, I thought that there was a good chance he would re-sign with the Hornets, even though that doesn't make a lot of sense. Up to that point, all the news had been that the Hornets were actually winning the race to get Kemba Walker. But now it sounds like he might end up in Boston, which is a very interesting scenario. And I want to briefly go over this whole situation with Boston and kind of just give a breakdown what the team's going to look like in 2019. I gotta say, it's not very impressive. It's pretty average in my opinion. It's not going to be a very good team. It's certainly not going to be like the Boston team this year, where they went into the season being favored to actually win the East. It's not going to be like that at all. In my opinion, the way it looks right now, even if the Celtics land Kemba Walker, they're going to be the fourth, maybe the third best team in the East, and it'll be pretty obvious too. Because the Bucks, well, it depends a lot It depends a lot on what the air free agents are gonna do, like Chris Middleton with Milwaukee, and obviously Kawhi with Toronto. But assuming the players mostly resign where they are, you would have Toronto would be better than Boston in my opinion. Uh, the Bucks would be better than Boston. The 76ers would be better than Boston. When Victor Oladipo comes back, if he comes back fully healthy, the Pacers are a bit of a dark horse in that scenario. I think the Pacers could be better than Boston because that team just generally fits together real well. So, Boston's in a bit of trouble. I want to talk about, what this team's going to look like next year. So obviously this year, with the current roster they had for this season, to the conference finals, they got eliminated in the second round, which is kind of where you see teams like that Boston level go, like teams that are decent but not really great. They usually get to that second round and then they're done. But they got eliminated in dramatic fashion against the Bucks, and this was after beating the Pacers 4-0. They got beat 4-1 by the Bucks, and they didn't have answers. Brad Stevens, this guy who's been hyped up as a potential Coach of the Year candidate, really didn't have any answers. Mally's to mesh, and we saw the narrative coming out of that series being that Kyrie kind of gave up on the team. The body language was bad. Terry Rozier a couple of weeks later comes on and says, I might have to go if he doesn't get a bigger role in the Celtics. He's talking about his own free agency, of course. So, a team that obviously did not have or did not live up to the hype from the preseason, a team that had a lot of internal conflicts and turmoil. And now, of course, Kyrie is going to leave. We know Kyrie's leaving. From all accounts, he's probably staying in the Eastern Conference in one of the New York teams, either the Nets or the Knicks, trying to attract KD to get there as well. So Kyrie's gone. And mind you, this comes for Boston after they got rid of Isaiah Thomas to get Kyrie, I think 2 years ago. So now Boston doesn't have the star point guard. Kemba Walker would be the guy who would fill that spot. Walker's coming off his best season as a pro. He made an All-NBA team this past year, which is his best he's ever done. He's been in Charlotte his entire career. Charlotte has been maybe the highest thing they've ever gotten is maybe a 6 seed. I don't know for sure. I'm not saying that because I know it, but I think that's relatively probably the highest they've ever gotten. They've always been crushed or rolled over. This year, not even making the playoffs, despite Walker's best efforts. So now it sounds like he's coming to Boston. And the issue with that is, even though he's going to be a good player in Boston, Boston will be an average team. They're not really going to be a championship contender with just Walker. They need someone or something else because their current roster is this. Now, obviously, you got to remove Horford and Kyrie Irving from this because you said Kyrie's not coming back. Al Horford declined as a player option, I believe is what he had. He declined it. He's going to be a free agent. So, removing these two, Celtics have Gordon Hayward on a massive deal, which he's not living up to right now, for reasons we'll discuss a little bit later. Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and a bunch of role players or deep bench players. And I like Semi Ojeleye, but it's you gotta understand, this is, if we're talking about championships, Semi Ojeleye cannot be one of your top bench players if you're talking about a championship team. They will also have Carson Edwards coming in. We saw him hitting a bunch of threes uh, during the NCAA tournament, but we gotta see how it translates to the NBA. That'll be interesting. They don't have Aaron Baines anymore. They traded him away during the draft. He was a pretty good rim protector for them and role player. He's not there anymore. So the starting five would be what? Kemba Walker at point guard, Jaylen Brown at shooting guard, Jason Tatum small forward. No, Gordon Hayward small forward, maybe, and then Tatum at power forward. Is that how they would do it? I'm trying to reason this out right now, but looking at it, because Gordon Hayward got a lot more playing time last year than he probably should have, and I feel bad saying that. Because Gordon Hayward's a player who I liked. I didn't love his game, but I liked him as a player, and I wanted him to do well. I liked him a lot when he was with the Jazz. Well, obviously, he came into Boston in 2017. That team was supposed to be very good. He broke his leg in the first game in the early minutes. Yeah, see, only 5 minutes in. Missed the rest of the season, been rehabbing. Was not the same player last year, obviously. You can see the difference in the numbers. Wasn't that offensive player than he's a player. Certainly wasn't that like this year. He's obviously not going to get better on defense. Was not a great defensive player. Couldn't score. In reality, it's Gordon Hayward who are all-stars. They're all-stars because they can score. They don't have all-around games. This isn't a guy like LeBron who can pass the ball a lot. Not a guy like Ben Simmons who passes. It's not that kind of guy. This is a scorer. He's not Jimmy Butler or Paul George. He's not an all-defensive player. This guy scores, and that's it. He can get decent numbers on rebounding and assists, but he's not going to major in any of those areas. And, of course, now whether it's confidence or just him, still rehabbing, doesn't have the full abilities he had before the injury. And we don't know if he's ever going to get them back or not. It just sucks to say that, for a guy that's 28, 29 years old, that you might have already peaked and now you might be on the downslide, might never get back to where you were. But this is the reality. We have to talk about this. And if Gordon Hayward is going to be a player who's going to play significant minutes for you, 25 to 26 minutes per game for you, while averaging just 11.5 points per game, as a bad defensive player, you cannot win a championship, especially when you're paying him as much money as they're paying him right now. They are paying him more money than we're paying Al Horford. They're paying him more money than they were paying Kyrie Irving. And his contract now is going to hamper this team because he's not going to be playing like an all-star, but he's making money like he's an all-star. So you've got an all-star level contract on your roster already, but you don't have that all-star level player. And however you work this out, you put Kemba, and you say his starting five is Kemba, Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and who knows who else. Pick one of these guys, or maybe they'll sign a free agent at center. Those are starting five. That's all right. But you think about guys like Tatum and Brown are really guys who need to develop and guys who have not fully developed yet. Brown, there was a time I thought Brown could be an all defensive level player and could develop into a low level all-star caliber player if he developed an offensive game. Brown's development was sidelined by bringing in Gordon Hayward and giving Gordon Hayward significant minutes. And also because Jason Tatum was there. So now you have two guys who play kind of relatively not similar roles because one's shooting guard, one's small forward, but guys who are basically splitting minutes. And you have those guys now. And you never developed them because you played Gordon Hayward instead. You played an injured Gordon Hayward who's not at 100%. You chose to play him over a young Jaylen Brown and a young Jason Tatum. And you completely just overlooked the development of these players. These players are now disgruntled. They want more minutes. They want to play more. And we even saw Jason Tatum, a guy who looked really good his rookie year. And a guy who I thought would be in line to make an all-star game somewhere down the line. Really didn't make him a huge jump after his I expected him to move forward. He really, a little bit, but his efficiency dipped a lot. He's scoring more. I expect a bigger jump, a more significant rise to see this. Maybe his per 36 is better, a little bit. But it's just, and look, dips in the 3-point percentage and the field goal percentage. This is a guy you need to get more touches and more minutes to try to develop him, and more attention. But a lot of that attention was focused on Gordon Hayward, and obviously, Brad Stevens coached Gordon Hayward in college, so there's a relationship there. But this team with Gordon Hayward on it right now just isn't championship caliber, and it's being held back by a bad contract by a player who we don't know if he's ever going to be 100% again. If we don't know if he's going to be an all-star again. Uh, and this led to players like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum being disgruntled and upset. It's blocked a team that had Kyrie Irving, Al Horford, and these guys from being able to make it to the conference finals last year. I'm not blaming Gordon Hayward specifically for that because Kyrie didn't have good body language. The whole team, just personality-wise, fell apart. Like I said, even mentioned other players such as like Terry Rozier, who also didn't get minutes because you had Marcus Smart and Kyrie Irving ahead of him. And Rozier's a good young player, probably not as good as he thinks he is, but he's still a good young player who will get paid if he gets free agency full time. He'll be paid probably more than he's worth, but he'll still get minutes wherever he goes and get the chance to develop more. And this team has just been so messed up, really. The whole process. Really, you have such a bad mixture of veteran talent and young talent, and they did not integrate those two units well enough at all. It didn't go over well. And now you've got Al Horford, Kyrie Irving, Marcus Morris, and Terry Rozier, who are all going to be gone. Or at least, I don't know about Morris, but the other three we know are going to be gone for sure. Maybe Rozier will come back, I don't know. But even if he does, you're losing your most central pieces, which would be Horford and Kyrie Irving. You now have players that you did not develop properly in the first couple years of their careers in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who are upset with you as an organization a little bit and with your coach. I'm talking about bringing in Kemba Walker, who is a All-NBA player, but not a Kyrie Irving level player. So, for me, this team just has a bad makeup. It's a middle, maybe a 4, 5, 6 seed in the playoffs. Probably more of 4 or 5 next season, depending on how they do in free agency. Even then, like I said, Kemba Walker would be their guy in free agency. They would fill out the rest of the roster. And even then, they wouldn't have, I just don't see, where they're going to go with this. If Kemba Walker is your big signing, I don't know where you go for it at all. If anything, you're moving down because you're losing Horford, who's a player who, in my opinion, you can't replace easily because you can't find a center like Horford who's willing to do all the nasty things, rebounding, passing. He's a good athletic defender, even though he's 33. But he's willing to take a backseat to other scores, and you don't find players like that a lot, especially in free agency where players are betting on themselves. And he's not a great rim protector, but he's a good defender overall, very versatile, can move outside the paint. Does all the little things that you need. Pretty quiet and good personality to have on your team. And now without him, and without Kyrie Irving, who was your superstar, you're now going to roll into next year with Kemba Walker as your best player. And players like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown who need to develop more. And that's just not a winning formula in the current NBA at this point. You need more established stars. I feel like you need those 2 established stars. And one of them has to be a superstar, and you're not going to have that next year in Boston. So for me, this Boston team, even if they sign Kemba Walker, this is still at most, second-round playoff team. I think Boston's going to have a lot of struggles next year, and this could be a situation where they're looking not just for next year, but maybe the year after that, this summer, because they're not going to be competitive next year in the Eastern Conference.